Hello again, y'all, and welcome to Dear Bunker, where Call of Duty Zombies theories face the facts. Today we're going to be investigating one of the longest standing theories in the history of zombies, one that's been around so long that the majority of the community now unquestioningly considers it fact. Now, what I want to discuss today is the theory regarding the identity of the hanging man at Shi No Numa and how it's always been assumed to be Dr. Peter McCain. Recently studying this evidence and looking at it in the light of the phrasing, the way that a lot of this is actually phrased, I think that we can kind of open that door again. Whether it turns out to be McKay or not, or someone else, I can't say. I can't say who it actually would be, for certain. I'm not going to make that claim. However, I want to propose that what we think that we've known all this time may only loosely be based on the evidence that we have, and that evidence might actually open the door to other possibilities. So the first thing that I want to draw your attention to is actually from the terminal in Black Ops, from a document swamp.txt. It is preceded by a note that states, "The following is a transcript of a recording that originated at the Group 935 outpost dubbed the Swamp. The voice heard in the recordings belongs to the handler of the operative Peter, who went missing an unknown time prior to the sending of this message. The operative is presumed dead, and the location of Shi No Numa has yet to be resolved." So the first thing that I think we ought to notice here is the handler, is this individual who's known as Peter's handler. And we're actually given his name in the next document in the terminal. And that is known as update.txt, in which it states, "Handler's notes. We successfully inserted Peter into Group 935 as a research assistant based out of Munich. Current location is unknown, but his last transmission suggested that he had been transferred from the Dries facility to a top secret location known only as Verrucht. Most recent communique indicated that the Group 935 experiments are barely under control. We fear that Peter's identity has been compromised, sending in a Marine recon unit to extract Peter from the asylum before it is too late. Operation leader will be one Tank Dempsey. The asylum must be contained at all cost." This document is signed Cornelius Pernell, giving us the name of Peter's handler. Now, what's always helpful in determining facts is dates. And we don't have a lot of dates and a lot of solid, established time frames in the zombies storyline. However, we are given some key information by Richtofen in his audio logs while he was working on experimenting with his test subjects at the 935 Siberia base.
Log entry 1472. Date, September 10th, 1945. Dear Diary, today was a good day. The swelling has subsided. The ice helps. They made liverwurst for lunch. It was... I still have not had any luck reprogramming any of the live specimens. Dr. The key to unlocking the human mind will be more easily discovered on someone who isn't dead yet. I am not convinced. The army is stored until I can break this trust barrier. Oh, apparently someone in security found a spy in the group. They are delivering him from place of one that I broke.
Now, before going any further, let's go ahead and establish some facts, some things that we know for sure occurred prior to September 10th of 1945. First of all, as we learn in update.txt, is that Peter McKay actually worked at Dries as a spy for Majestic 12 in Group 935 and was transferred to Verrucht, after which he was never heard from again. Cornelius Pernell becomes concerned about his identity and whether Group 935 might have become suspicious of him, and arranges for a Marine recon unit to fly in and basically extract him. We know that there was a zombie outbreak at Verrucht. We know because we've seen the Marines fighting for their lives. Verrucht was apparently in a state of abandonment when they arrived. The zombie outbreak there had already occurred. So 935 at some point either lost control or deliberately prepared for this Marine Recon unit and abandoned the facility, leaving zombies on the loose. Now, when the Marines arrive at Verrucht and finally make their way to the power room, you can't help but notice that there is a severed hand on the power switch, which is turned off. The last thing that you're going to do when you're abandoning a major research facility. You go up and you're going to shut down the power, right? Now, somebody lost their hand. And it's always been concluded, because of the hanging body at Shi No Numa and this body's proximity to the radio with the message from Pernell to Peter McKay, that this is Peter's body. And since the hand, the dimensions of the arm and the hand that are on the power switch are about the same as the section that is missing from the body, that must be the body's hand. The body must be Peter McKay. So we now have the Marines have met their end at Verrucht. Tank Dempsey is a prisoner. So now we can kind of move on past the September 10th point in time. All this has occurred. All the groundwork has been laid for what follows.
Log entry 1474, date September 20th, 1945. Dear Diary, it would seem that the OSS realized that we captured one of their spies. They tried to send a rescue team into Verrucht. That was all. First batch of test subjects. I suspect there are other moles in the organization. Dr. Harvey Ena and Dr. Peter McKay, to be precise. Dr. McCain include any Americans in Group 935, no matter how much genius they held. Stupid Americans with their apple pies and baseball and children.
At this point, McKay is still alive, and Richtofen speaks of him in a present tense as if he's not only alive, but still an active member of Group 935. So it doesn't appear that 935 had actually taken action against him, even though Verrucht had already fallen, the Marines had already arrived in an attempt to rescue him. He's referred to in the present tense by Richtofen. So we then move on to somewhere around the same time, shortly thereafter, in which the OSS intercepts a transmission. This transmission, as stated, and we'll go back to look at the first document in the terminal, the following is a transcript of a recording that originated at the Group 935 outpost dubbed the Swamp. Now, if this recording actually originated at Shi No Numa, and the recording was created by Peter's handler, what was Peter's handler, Cornelius Pernell, doing at Shi No Numa? Was he at Shi No Numa? So if it's true that Pernell did record this at the Shi No Numa base and survived, then why is it, as of the swamp.txt entry in the terminal, we still don't know where Shi No Numa is located? Now, I want to call your attention to a few key lines in that radio in which Pernell actually points some stuff out in a way that is worth listening to again. Note that he is telling Peter, who last we checked according to update.txt, actually had been transferred to Verrucht. He's telling Peter that we failed to contain the asylum. Now, right off the bat, one might conclude that he is referring to the Marine Recon Unit. However, he goes on to say that we had to move the experiment here. Location, the numbers will guide you. So Pernell is involved in the experimentation. Pernell was aware of the things that occurred at Verrucht. Whether he was actually at Verrucht, there is no evidence to say that. So he may be speaking from a second-person perspective here, or he may have actually been at Verrucht and experienced one thing or another there, and actually be aware of the events firsthand. However, my question is, if Peter was the one who actually shut off the power at Verrucht and lost his hand in the process, then why was Peter not involved in the transfer of the experiment? As I said, shutting down the power to the building is going to be one of your last steps when actually evacuating. Everything's prepared, you shut down the power. Why was Peter suddenly out of the picture? Why is Pernell here filling him in on what occurred after the outbreak? So it would seem that Peter may have actually left Verrucht before the outbreak occurred. Where he went is unknown. It's as stated in the update.txt. He then wraps up his message with a despairing observation that he's almost out of hope. We never hear from Pernell again, and we never hear from Peter again. However, when Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo arrive at Shi No Numa, they find a hanging body and a recording, with no way to date to verify with certainty the identity of that body. So, just bearing all those things in mind, that there is no actual evidence that Peter himself ever went to Shi No Numa, and that there's no evidence that Peter was involved in the transfer of the experiments from Verrucht to whatever location followed, it makes you wonder, at what point did he leave? It wouldn't seem that he left the time of the evacuation, because otherwise he might have been involved, right? So, just based on all this information, I think that we ought to consider this an open door, potentially. A possibility for other explanation. Alright, y'all, well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I appreciate it if you leave a like just to let me know. Of course, if you want to keep up with the investigation, the subscribe button is there for your convenience. This has been Napperzunner, signing out.